Я батько.
Я молодший брат.
Я водій маршрутки.
Я скоро одружуся. Я фанат шахтера. Начальник отдела продаж.
Я прораб.
Я программист.
Я свидетель на свадьбе.
Дядя Юра. Таксист.
Я вчитель фізкультури.
Я студент-геолог.
У мене своя фірма.
Я кращий друг зі школи. Я сусід, який завжди стукає по батареї.
Я єдиний син.
And we are finally starting. Well, I started 10 minutes ago, guys. I don't know about you. Like, well, you should have actually known that I will start without actually starting the stream. So you should have listened to me anyway. Haha, there we go. It's all your fault now. It's not my fault that I didn't press the start stream button. It's your fault for I don't know, doing something that didn't allow you to see me. Hey everyone, welcome to this wonderful stream that finally has started after me rambling for 10 minutes and only then noticing chat saying is like, well, where's the stream then? Thank you so much for that. I'm glad to start today, and I want to start today by always saying a big thanks to the moderating team. They are the ones that are helping us having a clear channel. It's been actually kind of a bitch for my channel recently. That a lot of these trolls are kind of resurfacing once again. And I want to start today's stream with giving a little bit of a like a motivational talk. And that talk I already gave and you didn't listen to it. So I'm going to repeat it just now so you can actually listen to it. The thing is, what I have been underlying for quite a while right now is that we that are not directly involved in warfare, we in the back are extremely susceptible to a lot of stories that goes around the war, the stories that are not directly linked to specific conflict. I explained many times that soldiers on the front lines of Ukraine, they don't really follow a lot of these stories. For them, it's more sort of a job. It's more a thing that they just do. And that actually is reflecting very much also on like President Zelensky, also on Zaluzhny, also on everyone else. That is how their position is. That's why when we get all of these weird ass stories discussing, you know, is there a conflict between Zaluzhny or Zelensky? Is there already a pressure from the Western powers to pressure Ukraine into something, whatever? It's most of these stories, like absolute majorities of these stories, is trash garbage. It's a complete nonsense. They have no basis for it. It's like either based on anonymous sources or some hinge or so on. I always try to underline that majority of what's happening right now, because warfare is in this lull where there are no major notable media moments that are happening, because obviously thousands of people dying per day is already, we're just so used to it. So for us, it's like, you know, just 1,000 people died this today. Well, nothing happened really. Yeah, another day in Ukraine. So for a lot of media right now, they need to make these weird ass media stories that has nothing to do with warfare in Ukraine. They have nothing to do. What I want to call for at least my community, we are never safe for it. Like the problem with this is twofold. First, that it creates wrong narrative around Ukraine, and we can do nothing about this. That's just how media works. They're gonna squeeze and milk every kind of possibility to get that narrative so they get more clicks. That's just how media works, and there is very little counterweight that we can really push for it. That's the unfortunate part. The more part that actually influences the supporters of Ukraine is what do you do with yourself? Because a lot of these stories, while they're not influencing Ukraine and Ukrainian capabilities of fighting Russia, they are influencing you, the supporter of Ukraine. They are putting doubts in you. And a lot of these stories are for sure, 100,000% are one way or another, are either financed or pushed by Russia or anything else. Right now, we know for fact that Russia is on a huge campaign to destabilizing the image of Ukraine, to make it as shaky as possible, to perceive Ukraine as a stable state. They want to push this narrative that while Russia is so much winning, that it's going to absolutely destroy Ukraine, despite the fact that they cannot do shit. Like, compared to what Ukraine is and what Ukraine is putting against Russia, whatever they're doing right now, all these couple hundreds of meters that they captured maybe a week around Avdiivka, they do nothing for Russia. It's absolute nothing. It's nonsense, garbage, trash. The point is, while it is influencing for you, I want, at least in my community, for people, and I know it's influenced because I'm getting messages about these topics. Like I got at least 10 mails asking me, oh, Georgie, what about Germany and US scheming to pressure Ukraine into something? Like, I don't know, Zelensky into a little bit of a group sex thing. I don't know, whatever, with Putin. I don't know, maybe they do it, maybe they don't. It's, everyone's private life. Whatever they do in the bad, they do. The point is, it's a crazy story. It has nothing to do with the actual situation on the front line. So whenever we hear these stories, I want people in my community to hear this. And I ask for any kind of God, any kind of higher spirit, higher power, your ancestors, whatever you believe, please, just take it a step back. Don't overreact. Wait until 2-3 days for the story to kind of boil down, because that's when the facts come in. Wait for the effects to drop off, or maybe some people release videos where they actually analyze the situation, and it's not that hard. So what we need to understand right now, which is absolutely crucial, is that Ukraine, in this position that it is right now, is so much stronger than a year before. It's actually hilarious for me that right now all of these media people, they're running around like headless chickens, trying to make up stories and trying to draw an image that Ukraine is this almost on a complete verge of losing, despite the fact that a year ago, Ukraine didn't have NATO-trained forces. It didn't have a lot of new brigades. It didn't have ammunition. Remember, the tanks, infantry fighting vehicles were not on the table back then. Long-range artillery was not on the table back then. F-16s that are now scheduled to be arriving to Ukraine were not on the table back then. Yet, despite that, there was at least some kind of a positive narrative about the fact and promise to Ukraine. Ukraine is absolutely destroying Russian military. Russian military is long. We talked about this also. There is a lot of tanks that needs to be burned before Russia starts running out of them. But Russian military, while big and long, it's not infinite. There is an end point to this. And Ukraine, with every day, with every single destroyed vehicle, is edging closer and closer to that end point. So it's actually the fact that we're thinking now, a year later, when Ukraine is securing all of these procurements for the weapons that they need, when Ukraine is getting all of these new capabilities with long-range weapons, with tanks, with F-16s at some point coming as well, it's all coming along. It's all promised and scheduled. People talk about, like especially media people talk about dwindling support for Ukraine. Yet when you actually stop reading shit from your news articles and you look at the facts, you see that EU countries are more than doubling their support for Ukraine compared to the previous years. You see European Union stepping up not only in the non-military sector, but also in military support. You see that even in US, despite the turmoil, general consensus is that Ukraine needs a long-term support. So when you actually cut through the bullshit, through the media absolutely twisting the stories because they want to feed on your emotions, feed on your negativity. They are like a leech. They're just sucking all of your goodwill to Ukraine. They're sucking it out of you for you to just click on that article that talks about another times that Ukraine is pressured to negotiate with Putin. That's how they get you. So breathe out, give it a couple of days whenever you hear next story, and don't take it too much to the heart. The underlying point is Russia is nowhere near to destroying or winning in Ukraine. They're not. Couple hundred meters, a village, maybe even a city is nothing. It does nothing for Russia in this war. War is not ending after that. It's not. Ukraine is not running out of people despite what Russian propaganda is pushing for you. They're just not. The ratio, like Russia is a big country, yes, but if we even compare the military personnel, it's not that big of a difference. Ukraine is a 40 million people country. Russia is 140 million. That's not a huge difference. It is a difference for sure, but it's not a huge difference. And Ukraine is working to make sure that their mobilization effort is renewed with a proper balance. They're working on it. Okay, I need to stop rambling right now. But you get my point. Situation is not bad. Is it difficult? Yes. Is there a lot of challenges? Yes. Is there a lot of problems needs to be solved? Yes. Is there a lot of delays because of the Western hesitancy? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Many problems and that needs to be solved for Ukraine to just win. But it's happening step by step, by step by step. That is already happening. That's the point. And I want us all to remember that. All right. With this said, let's go. First question. What do I think for Starsky's Institute research for to combat Russian informational warfare? I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is. If this is something that Starsky has been saying recently, well, I actually haven't heard about it yet. He did write that he wanted to do a big announcement on the shills just recently. I literally came in home maybe half an hour to an hour before I started the stream. So that's the point. So if it was something just recently, I just haven't had the time to catch up with this. But maybe you can write about this a little bit more. But I'm going to ask Starsky himself. Maybe he can explain it to me. And then I can give you my qualified opinion. Right now, I just don't know. All right, next one. Savat Junkie, do you think Ukraine will try another big push next summer, or is continuing attrition is their best strategy? Well, General Zaluzhny talked about this just recently in his article. He said that attacking right now without additional capabilities that are breaking current situation on the front lines is a little bit of a stupid idea. You're just losing a lot of resources for very little gains. And we see that he was absolutely true. Russia are indeed attacking into Ukrainian positions, and they're losing a lot of resources for very little gains. And because Zaluzhny doesn't want to be like Russia, he doesn't want hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians just be sacrificed on the slaughter altar to take some kind of a city, maybe, and then get exhausted and then need to mobilize just additional men to absolutely ruin any kind of future for Ukrainian society. Yeah, I think General Zaluzhny is kind of right about that. So we should not expect at least before the planes enter the equation. And in my perspective, right now we're talking about something like 60 planes being supplied to Ukraine, 60 F-16s. I don't think it's enough. I believe breaking point was around 100 planes that they will start making a difference. and the Ukrainian Air Force commander is saying that they need 200 planes. So if Ukrainian Air Force commander is saying they need 200 planes and it's going to be about 60 planes that are supplied, it's about a quarter, just over. I don't think it's going to be enough. And the question for Ukraine to attack is always going to be subject to the resources available for Ukraine. Western powers are still quite slow on ramping up their production and support for Ukraine, but it's definitely going to be ongoing more and more. Yes. All right. Couple of thank you for what you're doing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Every time until victory. Russell Whiskey, thank you so much for being a member for 6 months. The official Ken, thank you so much for being for 5 members for 5 months. Official, you get me. Thank you. Aloha from Lahaina, Maui. Lahaina, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Thank you, the official Ken. And Russell writes Slava Ukraini, absolutely. Ukraine and US for sure, for sure. Captain Copenhagen, nice to see you here, my buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you. Denmark, yeah, for Hilville. David Oliver, thank you so much for being a member for 3 months. Merry Christmas. Yes, it's coming. And we're going to do a nice event. There is already people from the support that are delivering support for the 47th Brigade that is now defending Avdiivka. They reached out to me, and we potentially going to do something around this winter to Christmas to help the people at the front lines around Avdiivka to boost their capabilities even more. So stay tuned for that. Jakub, thank you so much for 20 gifted memberships. Appreciate it. Tomasz Bralukas, yes, thank you. Ačiū. Susie, member for 2 months. Thank you so much. My Christmas gift is for people to donate to Ukraine. Yes, we will. We will donate. We will make sure that Ukrainian defenders will get support that we can provide. This is probably my most proudest thing about this channel. People often ask, like, well, how do you feel about being, like, having a large channel? I was like, I don't give a shit. It's just a number. It's like, it's nice to see a number go up. What for me really, really matters, well, Ukraine, obviously, but the most important thing is what we actually do. Because what we actually did over this last year is absolutely fucking amazing. Like, we did a lot of support, and I couldn't be more happy. So thank you, guys. Like, every time, like, when I'm not streaming, I'm actually a little bit crying for how happy I am for this community and this that you are supporting Ukraine. Thank you. HSS Labs Berlin, welcome to Brother in Arms. Sonke, thank you so much for 1 gifted membership. Thormal, welcome to Brother in Arms. Sub-Hero, hello, my Bulgarian friend. Just think about it. Ukrainians will never let this go. Russia cannot win this war, even if it has to take a decade. I don't think Ukraine will ever let Russia win. Very tenacious, those Ukrainians. Yeah, I mean, like, you cut it. Like, that's what I'm saying, right? You don't need me to tell it. It's a very, very clear fact, because we talk about it a lot. This war is not like a land grab. This war is not about certain, like, resources, who gets the oil or something. This war is existential for Ukrainians, and this is what we need to understand. Ukrainians, specifically if we're talking about Zelensky, office, and people that are in Ukraine, they understand really well that if Russia is not defeated, there is no future for Ukraine. They know that. They know that if they allow Putin to win anything, then there is no future for Ukraine. There's not going to be investment in Ukraine. No one is going to treat Ukraine. There is not going to be any kind of reparations for the war crimes. No cities are going to be rebuilt by Russia. No kind of compensations to the victims of Russian bombings, Russian killings. Ukrainians know that. When you talk with Ukrainian soldiers, you hear only one thing that they say. They say, we need to fight Russia now, so then my children don't have to. That's what they're saying. It's not rocket science. Like, if we want to understand what's happening in Ukraine, we should start listening to Ukrainians and not some German journalists sitting there and thinking what kind of a bullshit article they need to make to get a little bit more clicks and get the line go up for them. Because for them, views matter and not what they're actually doing to support Ukraine. Fuck them, guys. Fuck them. Sorry, I had it coming. Yes, hit that like for Georgie to rant a bit longer, yes. Yeah. Shimara, thank you so much for $20. In terms of war efforts, how much more painful are the Russian losses around Avdiivka now compared to Bakhmut? They're quite painful. Earlier this year, considering this is a regular Russian army instead of the 100% disposable Wagner prisoners. You are partially right. You are partially right. The difference is that there is very little to none that was left from the Russian army. At the start of the year, there was about 80,000 professional soldiers that were still in the Russian military, mostly in the VDV. Over the summer offensive, a lot of them got taken out. Right now, the estimates are from the original staff, there's about 50,000 left that are still, professional soldiers. With that said, there is an argument to be made that all of these people that mobilized over a year and they were able to interact with a lot of fighting, so they also learned. So now there. So I don't really think that thinking about the term of professional army is a valid term. The biggest change that happened is that Russian generals, they realized how to work around the poor composition of their military. So they started making tactics that are less reliant on the competency of individual soldiers or individual squads. They started applying tactics such as just go straight, attack that position until you get in. Just recently, there was a video about Russians executing some of the Ukrainian prisoners of war. It's an awful video. But the point is, in that story, they were able to take that positions because Ukrainians quite literally ran out of ammo. So Russians were able to reach Ukrainian trenches because Ukrainian trenches positions, they ran out of ammo. That is the tactic that Russia is using. How much worse it is. Oh, and another thing about prisoners. Prisoners are still being recruited by the Russian military. They're being recruited in the Storm Z units. It's now a common practice. So it's Russian army themselves that are recruiting prisoners. I actually want to make a video about this week. I wanted to make it last week, but you know why. And therefore, it's kind of like that. So I would not put a lot of hope into that number that Russian army is gonna run short on manpower. Russia still has the mobilization potential. I know I talked about that Russia cannot do more manpower significant than Ukraine, but it can still mobilize. I don't really feel that live cannon fodder, temporary alive cannon fodder, will be a bottleneck for Russia. I believe it will be a bottleneck for certain periods, but not right now. So while it's nice to look at the numbers of dead Russians and knowing that a lot less Nazis are walking this earth anymore, unfortunately, I don't really think that this is where the resource shortage will hit Russia the hardest. Unfortunately. Let's celebrate the first super chat. Thank you so much, Shimra. I hope I answered that. Yayway, thank you so much for being a member for nice months. Appreciate it. A free chat. Yeah, that for sure. And don't fuck with Ukraine. Thank you, Rick. All right, let's come back to the questions. Remember, there is a Q&A section specifically because chat is moving quite fast. I cannot always capture what's written in the chat. All right, more answers, less talking. Hello, Georgies. Thanks for the live. It would be fantastic if you can explain Transib cannot compensate for taking out BAM. Slava Partizanam. So Transib, it cannot fully compensate. The question is about capacity. Russia has reoriented a lot of both export and import towards China. And both of these lines were crucial, specifically BAM, because BAM is more built towards heavy cargo trains, so they don't have to do more stops, so they don't have to let the passenger trains through. So there is it's all about movements. Like when you only have two lines, there requires a significant part of logistics to be made. And BAM was dedicated for a lot of specifically for the heavy cargo transport. While it is not fully, as I said in the video, it doesn't mean that there will not be cargo coming back from Russia and from China and North Korea to Russia. It's a bottleneck. It creates a lot of pressure. Already now, because Russia has reoriented a lot of imports that they needed from European Union towards China and Eastern Bloc countries, at that moment, there was already significant pressure and there was already knowledge that these both lines were quite significantly put to the possible limits of their capacity. With BAM taking out, it now creates pressure and certain things just cannot be compensated. So there will be delays in deliveries of things. There will be new priority. It's just going to make complications for logistics. But the main point that I did in the video with that destruction of the BAM, an absolute crucial point, is that the fact that there is already a capability in Ukrainian arsenal, either it's the local partisans or these special forces from Ukraine that are made it into Russia, whatever it is, there is a capability to sabotage these supply lines. So if that capability persists and Ukraine will be able to disable both BAM and Transsib in multiple places going forward and so on, if that will continue happening, that is something that can absolutely change the state of the war. Right now, BAM in itself is a blow. It will delay certain things, will make things very, very complicated for national logistics. We'll have to push certain production lines back maybe a month or 2 months, but it's obviously not going to cut the flow. Whoever said that it's going to cut the flow is lying to you. It's not true. That is a lie. It never happened. Tomasz Nushka, Russians cannot mobilize too many men. They already suffer huge shortages of men in their military industry and regular business. It is true, but we also know that Putin might not think in specifically these ways, right? He might be something that is called a short-sighted. I think he always kind of looks towards a goal and he tries to reach that goal, which is it's a good, at any cost necessary. And I don't really consider that he's looking that much into what kind of economic suffering is happening on the Russian markets. Right now, Putin's attitude to economy for the most part was a very, very hands-off. And that hands-off was always translated, okay, economy, you do you, and I'm gonna do my. And I don't really think that Putin is going to undercut his own desires and goals to then save some kind of a Russian economy. Ooh, dirty word. All these numbers, filthy. Yeah. Why Putin was the Man of the Year for Time magazine in 2007? Because Putin and Russia, specifically, for a long time in the West was sort of a cult. It still is to a large capacity. You still read all of these news articles that talk about Russia like this weird place where they have different people. Where's my meme? I need my meme. I need memes. Let me explain this by just showing you a meme, and everything becomes absolutely clear for you right away. People that seen this meme before, they already kind of oh, I know what's happening. I know what's going to be there. And you are completely correct because that's exactly what's going to be there. Yes. So this meme right here, that's the Western journalists, or journalists. You can insert politicians, all of these people. You know, that's like everyone that is around Russia, this is what they see, but then like the Western journalists, Russians, yeah, Russian culture, so deep, and they just scoop that up. They just like eat that shit up about how interesting and glorious Russia is and how deep in society and how this Putin guy is this person of the year and so on, despite like it's absolute nonsense. That's why Putin was a person in a Time magazine from 2007. How come Ukraine does not have daisy cutter bombs? Let me Google that. Daisy cutter bombs. Daisy cutter bomb. The BLU C-300 weapon systems, also known under program command. Let me. Oh wait, but my camera is not working there. Okay, never mind. A nickname Daisy Cutter Vietnam for its ability to flatten a sector of the forest into a helicopter landing zone. It's an American 15-pound bombs, conventional bomb delivered from a C-300. Okay, so the answer to that is very, very simple, because the air does not belong to Ukraine. Ukrainian planes cannot fly over something and drop bombs. That is not what's happening. Ukraine does not do that. Ukraine does not control air. Air is very, very contested. As soon as Ukrainian plane rises above 10 meters, maybe 15 meters, it appears on the Russian radar, and there's a great chance that it's going to get shut down. Give Ukraine 200 planes, and you're going to see situation change. And then we can talk about the big bombs that make boom. Can Ukraine win the logistics war? Yes. Harvey, first time a live chat with you, but I always watch your shows. Harvey from Australia. Hi, Harvey. Do you have any information on how Russian troops are equipped for winter? They're okay. This winter, I mean, yeah, it's stop. Like you need to stop expecting Russians to be frozen. It's an oxymoron. Russians know how to isolate themselves. Like, let's put it this way: because Russian government is so shit and they're not supplying any kind of basic support for the Russian families, they already, over the span of lifetime, they figured out all of the necessary life hacks to insulate themselves. They can make it happen. So I know how you really want like Russians to be absolutely useless, but they're still not. It's unfortunately they're still semi-sentient people. Let's not completely degrade them to the level of animals. That would be an insult to animals. Ingboy, Q, any comments about Putin's new around 170,000 recruitment for body bag filling? I mean, it's for paper. It's already kind of a first call that there's going to be an additional round of mobilization. So probably going to be additional mobilization. As I said, I don't expect Russia to be running short on manpower. I think it's a little bit naive to think that. John Lundberg, or Johan, is there any progress on the blockade by Polish truck drivers? This is hurting Ukrainians' economy and war efforts. Is effort being made by politicians? Yes. The unfortunate situation, I described it last time, is that it happened right before the transition of power from the Polish after election. And it was absolutely Polish campaign, Polish election, like Polish political battle, and it absolutely is. Now we see it with the new messages, because as soon as opposition set out that the current ruling party that is not doing anything, that is still kind of in charge of the government, they are sabotaging relationships between Russia, between Ukraine and Poland, and putting Ukraine into Russia's hand. As soon as that message was voiced by the opposition, the currently ruling party that lost the election, they instantly came out with a statement that, oh, we actually already have some kind of negotiations, and we actually already have a working plan how to resolve this problem. Haha, in your face, opposition. It's a political infighting. There is unfortunately no much more to that. Ukrainian lives are paying for the Polish political infighting, unfortunately. That is just the case. In any case, it does hurt that Ukraine is not getting the necessary resources delivered. it does hurt that right now Hungary and Slovakia are openly hostile countries to Ukraine. It's not very nice situation to be in for Ukraine. And the situation in Poland, while Poland, there is like the support for Ukraine from Poland is not dropping. Don't get that wrong. But right now, Poland is struggling because there is no concise government in charge that would be able to resolve this conflict and continue support for Ukraine as necessary. Do you think Ukraine will view cutting off Kerch Bridge supply line a priority before the end of this year? No, I don't think so. So far, it's not been a priority, despite the fact that they had capabilities to do so. I still will think that they will look for ability to do so, but I don't think that they are putting all of the eggs in one basket. I think it's a parallel operations. I think they're planning both with the fact that they want to both target the bridge, but also do something else. Good example is because all operations can go wrong. Remember when the last Kerch Bridge explosion happened, some of the people started asking, well, why did Ukraine only send 2 drones? Well, then the details of the operation came out recently with the video footage and everything. Google it up if you haven't. And it turned out that Ukraine actually sent 5 drones, and only 2 of them reached the Crimean Bridge, and only 1 of them actually inflicted the damage. So that's why it's nice to plan an operation, but I don't think that Ukraine is betting all of its plans for that to succeed. If it succeeds, good, but if it not, I don't know. Yes. Seen today, average soldier age is 43 in Ukraine. Yes, it's been a staple of the internal critique within Ukrainian society, especially when the military personnel is critiquing political government of Ukraine. They're saying that the mobilization needs to entail also the younger population, the 18 to 30 years old. Because right now, they're, as far as I am aware, they're not mobilized because Zelensky wants to preserve as much youth as possible. It's just like, kind of not a bad idea. And secondly, right now, the only younger people, most of them are volunteers. Like, not volunteers, but like freely. I don't know. The people that, I think it is volunteers. Yeah. So they went into army themselves. So they sign up for the military themselves. Yes, at some point, I believe that it will come. I feel that there is a lot of internal pressure within Ukrainian society to do more younger mobilization waves. But I don't think that Zelensky that is something that Zelensky really wants to do. But I don't think there will be any other option, unfortunately. It's all about cutting off access to Crimea and Russia supply lines right now. Yes and no. I mean, it is about supply lines in general, but as General Zaluzhny outlined, there is no right now possibility for Ukraine to really cut physically that supply line. Do you think the West will deliver another round of tanks? Yes, absolutely. Who cuts your hair, Georgie? Random people that I go to most of the time. I have a Turkish guy that cuts really well, but I haven't been to him for a while. Last time I cut my hair was when I was in US. I overpaid a lot, so I decided to compensate for another month without cutting. I know I look like shit. Thank you for noticing. We know Russia is long and not infinite, but neither is Ukraine. Any new news on Mike Johnson and Ukraine support? Any comments on mobilization issues for Ukraine? Which specific mobilization issues? There's a lot of very flawed arguments that are talking complete nonsense, that Ukraine is running out of manpower. Those are, well, nonsense. Then there is the argument that Ukraine is only recruiting elderly people. That is true. And there is a lot of internal push, as I said, for involving younger population. And On regards to Mike Johnson, I believe he has some latest comments stating that there should be more help for Ukraine. Let me Google that just very fast. You can Google with me and see where we end up. Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal article. Oh, fuck Wall Street Journal because they're in the same shit. But the article is paywalled, but the article is called Recently Elected House Speaker Links Kyiv Funds and U.S. Border Security in Push to Win Over Skeptical Republicans. How Mike Johnson... Mike Johnson becomes a surprise champion of more Ukraine aid. Well, that is an article that exists. Politico writes, Johnson confident and optimistic about Israel-Ukraine funding package chances. So remember, once they're floored, the voting is allowed. I believe at that moment there isn't going to be enough voices to get it through. So yeah, I don't feel any issues with those statements. There is a little bit of a haggling for some political clout, like he wants to link it with the southern border issue that Ukraine has internally, which is but I think that's how democracies work. A little bit of haggling, that's just unfortunate. Uses salad bowl for haircut. Yes. Watch me do it live next time. No, I won't do it live. No, don't send me money asking for that. I won't do it. You can do your fetish shit on other platforms. Only later. Do you think Budanov is pissed right now? I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was pissed a long time ago. We know Russia is long... Okay. Is there any news on progress regarding training on F-16s? Do you feel we will see them in use this winter or wait for the new spring offensive? I will be very careful talking about spring offensives and any kind of new offensive. Right now, there is no indications that the plan is on the table for the next Ukrainian offensive. How I know that? Because that's how Ukraine operates. That's how we are seeing supplies from Western allies are coming in for Ukraine. Ukraine, like I already kind of cut out the pattern of how allies are supplying. So allies right now have two tracks of supplies for Ukraine. Certain supplies go into Ukraine because they are operational supplies. They are supplies that are being used up. Those are ammunition. Those are like small arms. Those are like vests, MREs, and stuff like that. Also anti-air systems. They're also considered like a supplies that just needs to be sent as soon as possible. That's the track number one. Then the track number two, right now, as I completely understand right now that it's exactly it is for Ukraine to present to the wider coalition a plan of their further movement, like what are they going to do right now. After which they will then split it up in between countries on what specific countries need to deliver something for Ukraine. I believe generally this framework worked quite well. The problem, unfortunately, rises when in that framework, it was certain things that were not delivered. So, for example, for Ukrainian offensive, things just took too long to deliver. Certain things were not delivered at all. Certain things were delivered, but they were faulty. So the delivery that were outlined for this specific plan, they didn't match the necessary capacity for Ukraine to perform that action. Yet the action was still expected because the plan was communicated to the allies. There are multiple ways of treating it. Like if I take my experience from business to my understanding how business operates and so on. One thing is you add a little bit more room for the error. So you make your request not 200 tanks, you make it 400 tanks. So if you get 200 tanks delivered, good. If you don't get, not so good. Other option is you, instead of defining specifically what you need, you might define we were going to be able to execute certain actions at when we have this amount of inventory of certain things and not before. Also, we're going to add an increase in this coefficient as the times go by, because the other side will be able to prepare for our offensive when it comes. So we can input a coefficient to how much equipment when we need before we can start an offensive. So right now we're in this period where I believe new plan and new framework, not maybe new framework, but more of an adjusted framework is being put on the table for the allies to discuss and agree upon for how Ukraine will receive next major batches of actual strengthening equipment. And obviously the second factor that also might be delaying it is that there is right now no support for US, and US is a main driver for weapons. So if everyone wants to deliver certain things, they would want to deliver it together with US. We've heard this from Germany. So right now, that's how I see. So that's why we mostly are seeing right now packages that are helping sustain Ukraine in the fight rather than giving Ukraine new capabilities, because we're waiting for that plan to be taken, approved, and scheduled. So I would be very careful for calling when the next offensive will come. Is it sensible to build a Rheinmetall factory on Ukrainian soil? Yes, absolutely. How it's can build, like there are many ways to make your factory unreachable for the enemy forces. There are options. I will not talk about them, but there are them, of course. Any news on Ukrainians' progress in Kherson on the other bank of the river? No, not so far. I mean, I will talk about it in tomorrow's video. There are certain news. I think the best it's summarized in this Russian Telegram. It's not really tweet, but like post, like Russian Telegram channel post, which was saying, today we had a hard fighting. Ukrainians were attacking us all day. We fought back against all attacks, but unfortunately some ground were gained by Ukrainians. So we defeated Ukrainians at every opportunity, but they still gained ground. That's a great summary of the left bank Kherson fighting with Russians. All right. I need to do more question answering. Am I right to be passed off with US? I would guess you saying pissed off with US? I mean, you can be pissed off with anything. It just depends on what are you being pissed off the most. There were valid arguments for countries not helping Ukraine or countries not wanting Ukraine to win. I believe we're a little bit over that discussion right now. I do believe that there is a dedication for Ukraine to actually prevail, despite everything. I know this is not a popular opinion. Right now, more popular is saying that the countries just want Ukraine to survive but not win. I don't really see it as true. I see that there is just a lot of internal resistance with the bureaucracy and a lot of stupid assumptions that a lot of. So I feel we're in a more or less right mindset, especially in Europe. I'm really happy to see Europe scaling up. And I feel that right now it's only about raising our capacity, because capacity of our military production is raising up significantly, which is great. And I do believe that Ukraine is going to benefit a lot. We need to understand that there is nothing that is supplying Russia even remotely closely to what kind of a capacity for production the Western powers have. And I believe that a lot of that production is going to be working to support Ukraine in a very, very near future. So no, I feel very optimistic about US also, so I don't know. What I do think is the idea that I've heard from the Ukrainian lobbyists, sorry for the tangent, is that In US, it was a great idea to propose to rename the US aid to Ukraine, the USA package, USAI package that invests into production of equipment on the US soil to then deliver that to Ukraine. I do believe that renaming it into U.S. defense investment initiative or something, that to take out Ukraine from that discussion or initiative or like so. So basically, it's not becoming a trading chip. So it becomes like we're just investing into US, which it actually is happening. I do believe that it's a great idea, but overall, I'm not pessimistic. Most of the because when you listen to a lot of these public figures, a lot of them are mostly focusing a lot of the public narratives, a lot of public narratives. Whereas when I listen to actual niche experts, niche specialists, for example, there is like a Ukrainian bureaucrat. It's a probably bad word, like a state official, let's put it this way. There is a Ukrainian state official that nichely works with Ukrainian drone production and drone production supply lines and so on. He talks about the issues of drone production in Ukraine, talked about drone production from the Western allies countries and the problem of dependency on China and so on. And he's very optimistic. Like he's saying that a lot of countries are trying their best to help resolve the specific drone issue. Like, for example, they're not having sufficient plastic like elements at least produced inside of European Union, yet there already are subsidized companies that's supposed to produce some specific components for increased drone production. So there is work that's being done on a many levels beyond the initial headlines. Therefore, I am a lot less susceptible to a lot of these high narrative things compared to where I was at the start of the war. I believe the main part, the political will, mindset, and message, for the most part, for the majority of countries that matter, I'm sorry Latvia, I'm sorry Lithuania, we are just a very small specks, but a lot of the countries that matter, like Germany, France, US, the mindset has shifted into the right way, into the right format. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm sorry if I didn't list your country. It's not because you don't matter. It's because we're focusing on some other things instead of circle jerking each other. Canadians take it to heart every time I don't mention Canada. So Canada. Also Australians. Australia. Or sorry, like, is this like thumbs up, but it's like this in Australia? Like, oh my god, stupid down under joke. No. Will Ukraine become a member of EU and NATO? Yes. Will Putin's re-elections be a turning point? No. I'm ashamed Ukrainians dying for our freedom. We are giving way less show everything that we could. I'm angry. It's good to be angry. It's a good thing to be angry about. It's a good thing to really hope for change for. So I would not take it away from you. But Ukrainians also understand that they're fighting for their own destiny as well. They understand that it's also their war. It's their war to win. That's why they're not asking for anyone else to join up. Kelendan, what is preventing AFU from taking out Russian electric infrastructure, especially in Moscow? You know that's a war crime, by the way. Is it capabilities or Western politics? Muscovites might feel the pain of this war. Yeah, targeting civilian critical infrastructure, unfortunately, is a war crime. So while I know Western officials are kind of looking like this through their fingers for Ukrainians sometimes making certain attacks, generally speaking, if Ukraine starts targeting critical infrastructure of Russia, it's not really a good optic, unfortunately. Do you think Russia will do a full-blown general mobilization after Putin's joke election? They could. I know there are continued covert mobilization since last year. Yes, and I think a lot of that will continue. Unfortunately, that covered mobilization. Latest numbers from what I heard was confirmed about 100 to 120,000 that they were able to get. So roughly they're getting about 10,000 new conscripts every month, which is unfortunately. And what can happen is that there's going to be another partial mobilization that Putin will announce that will help supplement the losses that they occurred this time and also prepare for the next year. So if we take the same 120,000 number from last year and say, okay, Russia wants to compensate for the losses they incurred during this year, plus they want to get some new forces, let's say they're going to mobilize additional 300, 400,000. Can they do it? Yeah. Again, I don't think people are going to be a bottleneck for Russia, and I don't believe in Russian consciousness or any kind of political resistance potential. Sorry. Pure Water Black. Starsky announced that the Shill stream that he's quitting military to focus on creating an organization to counter Russian info warfare. Looking forward to hearing you after you talk with him directly. Sounds interesting. Sounds interesting. I mean, like, I don't see any problems with that because, to be honest, isn't that already what he's doing in a bit? It's just more focusing on that because fighting Russian information warfare is benefiting Ukrainian military immensely. So it's not that he's maybe he's not going to be a military anymore, but that will just untie his hands to do a lot of other things. So I'll need to talk with him, but I think it sounds something nice, yeah. How is Russia able to pay so much to its soldiers? Well, if there is a dead soldier, then you don't have to pay, do you? Think about it. Like if you, for example, delay payment for soldier for 3 months and he dies in those 3 months, wait, no need to pay. Also, in Russia, there is no payment policy. That's why there's so many soldiers right now staying on the fields of Ukraine. That's why Russia is sabotaging prisoner exchange. They just don't need them. Like it's the same no man, no problem attitude as Stalin has. They are fucking animals. Again, turning towards the absolute best of memes. That's the situation, you know. That's why Russia and so on. Also, remember, we are financing that war. I mean, we, like Western powers, we're still buying shit from Russia. Oil is still making, like, we're still buying oil from Russia. We're still allowing Russia to do a lot of shit of economies. Our companies are sending weapons, are sending equipment to Russia. Like, we are still giving a lot of money for this war. Us. We're paying for it. We're paying for Ukrainians to be killed. When it comes to contacting our elected officials, what would you suggest as the primary piece of equipment Ukraine needs the most? Tourniquets, IFVs should be priorities. Okay, first thing first, ammunition. Let's go over priorities. So, tourniquets, everything else, really important, really relevant, but they don't help Ukraine to win harder. What we need to do is to help Ukraine win harder. Ukraine needs first and foremost operational things. Operational things are something that just goes on all the time, and that is essential for Ukraine to survive. It's the basis for everything. That is ammunition, artillery, and anti-air systems. Those three things help Ukraine every day. Like it's like unsung heroes because they're doing like 80% of the work. It's just thought about like, oh yeah, well, we can just focus on the long-range capabilities. Ukraine needs long-range capabilities, but they will not like kind of be decisive if you don't have artillery to kind of sustain while these long-range capabilities are working. So these three things, artillery, anti-air, and yeah, those things. Then the second one is more weapons, any kinds. any weapons. We need to get to our politicians the main important points. There is no two Russias, especially in Europe. This is especially true in Europe. There is no two Russias. There is not going to be a second Russia that's right now fighting in Ukraine and losing significant resources that also going to attack Spain. We need to make sure that Spain understands that and then understands that they can take a little bit of a hit inside of their defensive potential, that they will not have all of the tanks necessary to go into the training session with the Nordic allies, but instead these tanks or equipment will make it to Ukraine. So that is an important message, that we can take a little bit of a hit. Third is that Ukraine needs advanced capabilities. Certain things are not being unlocked still for Ukraine, and it's important for politicians to pressure other politicians to do certain things, to make sure that we continue telling Germany, you need to supply Tauruses. US, you need to send more attackers. Ukraine needs these advanced capabilities. If we can focus on these three things, it's good enough. Even the first one is good, but if we can do more, then it's even better. You don't need to be a good person to be the man of the year. Only influential. Hitler was also person of the year. Yeah, I mean, it's a Time magazine. Who gives a shit? How long can Russia fund this war? Well, we're paying for it, so it still can. It still has a lot of resources to fund this war, and it's doing a job to fund it. Kalendan, is there anything unforced Ukraine can do to stop Russians' FAB gliding bombs that indiscriminately hit civilians, especially in Kherson? Yes, anti-air systems. And more anti-air systems. More F-16s and anti-air missiles to these F-16s. More forward-facing radars for F-16s to work together with. Those things, because like think about this, Kalendan. If there is a lot of plane bombs that are being dropped on Ukraine, then there is going to be 0 plane bombs dropped on Ukraine if there are no planes of the enemy in the air or even close to the front lines. That's the answer. You need to target it at the source. And if you want to target at the source, long-range capabilities. It's been 20 ATACMS that were sent to Ukraine. Where are the rest? Where are the long-range fucking ATACMS? I cannot believe where I'm talking about it again. Where are the fucking ATACMS, Joe? Come on. Reward for Putin? Question mark. No. Yeah, reward. I will reward him with a very, very tight rope. Very good. Will not break. Unbreakable rope, maybe. Anthony Smith, is there any updates from Crimea? Yes. Do you think there is any point continue to hit it or concentrate or other goals? Yes. There is a point of hitting it. Alucius, how are orcs still moving their meat waves forward? Gunpoint? Yeah, mostly gunpoint. What is their mentality? It's a long conversation. A lot of it is fear. A lot of it is pressure. Majority of it, they just don't care by this point. They already like live in this half animal state. So for them, it's like, yeah, whatever. What it is not, it's not like a conscious, oh, we're going to conquer Ukraine, glory to Russia. It's more of a drag. I talk about this, that the mindset of a work for Ukrainians, but to a large extent, some of it also applies to Russians. So when they have been doing this for over half a year, living in trenches and so on, for a lot of them, it's also a routine. So when you see bodies of your friends all over, scattered all over the place, you kind of get used to it. So it's like, I'm going into attack. There is a group that died just in front of me. Seen it before. Testing, just ignore. I will. Do you think mechanized warfare has gone the way of the dinosaurs? It's a good question. I think you need to ask more specified professionals. I don't feel I have necessary competence to answer such a deep questions on doctrine validity. I'm just like, you need to remember that I'm a guy. I'm not a military expert. I'm not a military analyst. I'm just a guy on YouTube that for some reason has a lot of people watching him. Thank you. So I'm not sure I can answer this question with any degree of validity. It's not something I'm competent in. What are you hearing about changes to Ukraine's command structure? There are certain discussions that are happening right now, but nothing has been solidified. So I will not talk about it right now before I hear something concrete. So there are rumors of potential changes, but nothing that I can clear right now. There's definitely going to be a rework, for example, of the mobilization drive. How is the real area of Moldova being supplied? Someone is lining their pockets with 30 pieces of silver? I don't understand the question. Testing for salty laws. Thank you. Will the freshwater pipelines be hit, or is this a war crime towards civilians? Which freshwater pipelines? I'm not completely sure where. It is certainly would force a refugee problem for Russia, like in Finland or Poland. I mean, like the refugee problem on Finland or Poland, that's a whole different subject. It's a hybrid warfare. It's not because of these things. Because I'm not sure if you noticed, but Finland and Poland, they don't border Syria. It's a little bit of a geographic fact that there is no direct border. What is the status of sub-griffins of Ukraine? I haven't heard an update on that. Kellis, why is Ukraine not conscripting women? It's also being discussed. But generally speaking, it's just traditional. Just wasn't part of it. I don't see any problems with this, but mostly probably because I live in Denmark. So in Denmark, it's like, I mean, when women, who gives a shit? Like, you know. Yeah. Darkest Alist, how can the many markets on fire be explained? Do you think ammo depots... Wait, what? How can the many markets on fire be explained? Do you think it is ammo depots, whatever material, or is it internal problems? Yeah, I think so. Maybe. Frank de Groot. Mike Johnson is obviously not following the red communist Stalinist doctrine that the Joker... What the fuck are you, right? Jesus Christ. All right, let's see. Kidnapping Putin's family. It's... Acoustic Prog, I agree that this is a positional war of attrition. The West should have given all the weapons right up front and or starting training right up front instead of piecemeal strategy. Yeah, there was a window, Acoustic, there was a window of opportunity after Kherson offensive for Ukraine. After Kharkiv, Kherson, there was a window of opportunity during the year before mobilization really took effect, the Russian mobilization, and they were able to train, dig in, and so on. There was this window of opportunity. However, that window of opportunity was just wasted. And right now, we cannot already remember it directly. But at that moment specifically, there was a huge dip inside of supplies of ammunition to Ukraine. Best guess from the analysts that I've heard that are telling this, it is because they thought that now that Russia has experienced defeat, Putin will step back. He's going to take the forces out of Ukraine. So there was additional drive to give him an off-ramp. And it was absolutely biggest strategical mistake of the West that they did, causing Russia to give their time to get additional training for mobilized, to dig in, to create these awful southern defensive positions and lay down kilometers of mines. That's what indecisiveness does. What can you do to lift up spirits? Maybe something for morale? I don't know. Go do some fentanyl or some shit. I've heard that helps. I've heard people that use it, they're very happy. Look, My channel is very niche, right? I am optimistic when there is a piece for optimists. For example, I don't understand the doomerism that everything is lost for Ukraine and so on, because it's not. Ukraine is in a lot stronger position than it was a year before. It's just fact. But what I want is I want Ukraine to win in real world, like in reality, where actual people live. I want Ukrainians to get Russians out of their territory. What I don't want is I don't want to live in a bullshit fantasy world where Ukraine is this unbeatable juggernaut and it's like beating Russia every day and every week, and every single update that I do is just explaining like genius of all of the Ukrainian strategists, of Ukrainian tacticians, and like they're beating Russians on every front and Russia is just always falling in trap and so on. I feel it's not healthy. It's not helping. I think we need to call a spade a spade. I think we need to underline when Ukraine is doing things good. I need to explain. I think it's more honest to say right now we're in a very weird, stupid situation where whatever Ukraine does is just going to cost a lot of Ukrainian lives. And Zelensky talks about it. And I see as this being like, well, yeah, that's just the situation we're in. But some other people look at it and say like, oh my God, the glass is half empty. Shit, we're fucked. We're going to starve. We're going to dehydrate and everything. I don't see it that way. I see that there are certain challenges. And I feel that if we talk about these challenges and what can be done at these challenges is a lot more helpful and productive than just be doped on hopium and expecting the best. People often say, oh, Georgie, but you were saying that like offensive would be such a great success and so on. I may be wrong. I was wrong on this channel before. I will be wrong after that. But I truly believed what I saw. Why? Because the analysis of the data that was available to me, and General Zelensky, again, saying it the same, that he showed this plan to many NATO generals. He showed these plans to every ally that was there, that were able to see it. And they were like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, it's like, you like by all of the calculations, like this should work. And it didn't work. Because why? Because war is not fully predictable. But while it's not predictable, there are certain things that are just fundamentally moving in the right direction for Ukraine. And I feel that it's important to recognize them, but I also feel that it's important to discuss the setbacks that are not allowing these things to move the right way just a little bit faster. And unfortunately, that a little bit faster means another couple of tens or hundreds of Ukrainians die every day. For me, it's a personal tragedy. I really feel for Ukrainians of dying this. They didn't ask for this war. The only thing that they wanted... Oh, and I actually remembered in one of the streams, I was really mad because I really wanted to say this. I want to rebrand this because we have absolutely lost the point of being pro-peace. If we say, I am pro-peace in Ukraine, it's perceived as dirty. Like, what are you, dirty peacenik? You just want peace at all cost. I am the biggest pro-peace activist. I am super pro-peace. Like, the only thing I want is that there is peace in between Russia and in Ukraine. I want Russia to fuck off to where they came from and get the fuck out of Ukraine and just let Ukraine live in peace. Ukraine wanted peace. Whatever Ukraine is doing right now, it is to get peace. It is the ultimate goal. But the peace must be just. If it's an unjust peace, it's either going to be temporary or it's not going to be a peace at all. In fact, in reality. So when people say, oh, I'm pro-peace, people are usually not. They're pro-genocide. So when we are saying I'm pro-peace, I want us all to understand that Ukraine never asked for this. Ukraine never wanted this war. The only thing that both Ukraine and myself especially want is for peace to come to Ukrainian lands. Period. That's it. Nothing else. Just peace. Ukraine maybe don't even need victory about Russia. Putin can declare a victory and celebrate it every day, parade, whatever. Just get out of Ukraine. Get out. Out. When are you going to Ukraine? Well, Frank, the issue with me going to Ukraine, if you didn't heard, my wife basically, like, and you can discuss it as much as you want, but I like my wife and I like my family, and my family, as much as I support Ukraine, but my family little by little bit comes first and foremost. And my wife said, like, well, it's either me or you're going to Ukraine, because she's not letting me, because she knows I'm going to get in some troubles, I'm going to put my life at risks or some shit like that. So unfortunately, I am banned from going to Ukraine in any kind of near future. But beyond that, I'm obviously working a lot. I'm a working person and so on. And I know a lot of people are going for Ukraine, and I very much approve of them. Like, for people that goes to Ukraine, however, I don't feel that this is something, because how can I benefit from it? Like, how can I contribute for going to Ukraine? I can do it for what? For clout, for myself. And not that people that are going to Ukraine are doing for clout, but for me personally, I am helping already. I don't think I'm going to be helping much more if I just go to Ukraine and also cause a conflict in my family. I'm not, like, again, I don't care about clout for my sake. I don't give a shit. My channel can be for 2 people. That's not what matters. The matters is what we're doing. And that's why I'm so happy that there is now 2,000 watching. That is amazing. 2,000 people that care about Ukraine. And that is perfect. I'm going to make sure that we do more to support Ukraine. Happy wife, happy life. Yes, that is true. And I think that's also the right message for people watching. You don't need to go to Ukraine to be in support for Ukraine. Like, if you write a message to your local representative, that is already big help. It's actually really, really big help. It's not only thing that you can do, but not everyone has the capabilities. There's a lot of people that are just working people, you know? There are people that have day jobs. There are people that have responsibilities, I know, right? And it's kind of hard for a lot of people. Some people just don't have the health to travel. So supporting Ukraine can be done remotely. And whoever says that you must be in Ukraine to even remotely say something in support for Ukraine, fuck them. How long the war lasts until Russia loses? Mdo, how much is the price for a small Ukraine flag on a stick, please? And for a large full-size Ukrainian flag? Yeah, I need to open my shop. Sorry, it was really busy week. I was hoping I will launch the shop. I'm going to launch the shop this week. I will try to do it today, tomorrow, but I just have a lot of work, unfortunately. The Christmas is not, the December is not making it easy. Don't forget the degradation of Russian war machine with the Russian proper. Yes. Zilariat, what companies are now forming production contracts with Ukraine of their developing military complex? Chan Hanukkah, Simak, Merry Christmas, Shak Hanukkah. It's probably not Jewish, oh my god. I forgot the language again. Anyway, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Why do conservative Republicans voting right-wingers get such a bad reputation when liberal Democrats voting folks are against Ukraine aid? I'm very pro-Ukraine, but right-leaning. We gotta be inclusive. I mean, like, I'm not sure if you listen to my channel. I shit on far left and far right the same, because I like my center positions. I feel that we should not be voting depending on who is which color. That's a problem for US. I cannot do anything about this, but I do feel that both the left and the right have really good programs and positions on certain programs. So I prefer voting on programs and what things are promises in those programs. But some people take it a level deeper, and especially in US, it's like the culture war is real. It's fucked up. My visit to Washington was very, very eye-opening. QR. Hi, Georgie. Here is some check money for you. Happy New Year's party, which happens to be my birthday. Oh, QR. I'll write it down. So I congratulate you on the new year. Is it the first? I hope it's. I will send in congratulations for you, my friend, on the right at the night where the thing is gonna shift for me, but it might be your time zone difference. So if it's on the wrong day, sorry for that, but I will remember that. Shmira, every time a Russian tanks or BMP gets destroyed, an angel gets its wings. Yes. Alosha, thank you so much for being a member for 5 months. Hard to degrade a society already at the bottom. Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure. Great stream. Are the prisoner exchange still taking place? Yes, but Ukraine just recently reported that Russia is sabotaging a lot of these exchanges. Most of these exchanges are happening in secrets. That's why they're not reported publicly, and majority of them are ongoing straight on the battlefield. Right, so it's a prisoner exchange that is happening on the front line. So there is not like a convoy with a delegation. It's like this. But Russia is not really going forward with a larger exchange of personnel. In your opinion, what points should I be pushing on my local representatives to get more support for Ukraine? I talked about it just a little bit earlier. Try looking back into the stream. I hope it helps. Big Daddy RP, do you think the initial tank donations to Ukraine were potentially a test drive for supply chains towards larger donations in the future? It's not impossible. I think the first, what people don't understand is that a lot of these tanks allowed Ukraine to put them for training. So a lot of these tanks are now have been trained on by many other crews. So whenever a new batch of tanks comes into Ukraine, these tanks will start getting crewed right away. So it's a certain thing that we do skip sometimes. So while maybe Ukraine doesn't have a lot of Abrams tanks right now because of supply chains or whatever, it has been preparing most probably, and I'm pretty confident about this, additional tank crews. So whenever it's like new 30 tanks Abrams comes in, good, they're going straight to battle. Grunt, Zelensky is president and during war does not need to hold elections. Do you think Putin can do the same? Different countries, different reasons. Putin is because like in your question, you're kind of putting on the same scale elections in Ukraine, a democratic country, and elections in Russia where it's not really elections. Like Russia is, like, by your logic, Russia is an amazing democracy, the best democracy in the world, because while 4 months before elections there is not even known a single candidate on the election. Well, I guess like Girkin said that he's going to be a candidate for presidential elections, but despite that, everyone already knows the winner. So there's an issue with that logic. I'm not sure if you noticed that. Great stream. Are the prisoner? Just we talked about it. How long would Ukraine take to rebuild at least moderate nuclear capability? Let's stipulate that they have the fissionable markets in scientific. I have one of 2 shorts that I made where I talk specifically about Ukrainian nuclear program. Ukraine doesn't need nuclear program. What Ukraine needs is protection. Protection. Security guarantees. If there will be security guarantees, Ukraine doesn't need a nuclear program. Sally Luz, I'd like to understand more about what anti-aircraft equipment is needed to proposally support F-16s in Ukraine. Do we know how much they have? Do they need support planes or just ground split? Okay, it's Ali. Ali, are you writing it to me or are you writing it to Sally Luz? Questions. I have questions. I don't know. Okay. Russia is pushing the allies Hamas, Iran, Serbia, Venezuela to attack their neighbors. Serbia will not attack because Serbia is in a shitty position. Everyone hates Serbia. If Serbia tries to do anything, Balkan countries are just going to pile up and beat the shit out of the Serbians. So as soon, like, Serbia is like Russia, except it's worse, but it's also smaller, and there's also countries that are literally just waiting for it to be. It's like it's like Serbia is surrounded by, like, if Russia is just big and it's like huge, that Serbia is like surrounded by Poland. Imagine the same situation. What's the status of Armed Forces of Ukraine electronic warfare domestic capability? Is the West providing enough radars? Yes, it's a complex topic to discuss. I need like a whole segment, and I don't have like a raw data to right now talk about it. So it is being supplied, but it's also varied. It's also problematic because a lot of Western forces, a lot of Western doctrines are based around specialized forces, so it's targeted. So it's not like they can supply electronic warfare that's going to be mass scale cheap alternatives that is going to be able to be supplied to like 300,000-400,000 troops. It's just not the warfare that Western powers are ready for. That's the problem. What do you think about Russia running dry on military equipment? Is the way for victory for Ukraine? Yes, I specifically talk about it, that once Russia runs out of their tanks, artillery, whatever else, there is not really a way to get them more. There is no really a way. Russian production is struggling. They're not even close to reaching any kind of growth potential that they were hoping for. Losses are enormous for Russia. They, even with the most optimistic scenarios of them reaching some kind of production, they were not even close to even remotely reach like even a third of what they're losing. So the outlook is absolutely terrible for Russia. The support from China that they potentially could get is not coming because China is pivoting to stay more of a like, we're going to supply you with the non-military things, but like don't expect us to send any kind of weaponry to you. And it feels that China is a little bit kind of decoupling themselves, at least visually, from Russia. I still expect China to dime every single piece of monetary value from Russia as they can. So they're going to sell to Russia anything that they can. They're going to allow companies to sell whatever they want to Russia, and so on, and to make sure that they milk Russia for everything that they have. The only countries that can technically supply is North Korea, and that can be an extension. But again, it's yet to be seen whether or not that will happen. North Korean equipment, again, far from prime state. We talked about the shells, and we were right, but the same kind of applies for a lot of the equipment, heavy equipment from North Korea. The problem for Russia, there is no country that can really help them sustain the level of losses. The level of losses is enormous. There is not a country in the world besides China that can really sustain it for Russia. But we're far from that. The important, like, don't take it as like, oh, Ukraine is almost winning. No, still a way to go. Still a lot of backlog to write it down. Which politician should be contacted first to request more support for Ukraine? Your direct representatives. You have the most impact on your direct representative, and that direct representatives is then going up the chain. If you expect writing Biden and hoping for a miracle, I mean, it's not a bad idea. It could happen, but generally speaking, your direct representative is what matters the most. Would you approve a large breakthrough in the strategically insignificant Luhansk region if it meant the West sending tons more equipment, or is it more preserving manpower? Lil Bubs, I do believe that there are options of just running through Russian stock of equipment. It's still being discussed by Ukraine, and I feel that there is this perception of the long war. I don't feel the Ukrainian command is ready to do any kind of rushed maneuvers and like put everything on red. I don't really expect that kind of gambles. It hasn't been a playbook by Ukrainians so far. a lot of the moves that Ukrainians did were more of a slow grind of like, okay, we're going to apply pressure, and then we're going to look for opportunities, and if the opportunities arrive, we're going to exploit them. So far, that was the playbook. The only one that we really tried to go forward was with the plan, no matter what, was at the south, and it didn't really work out. How worried or not are you about Russians' war being financed with gold and diamonds and whatnot from Africa? It's a weird theory. Majority of financing for Russia comes from Europe, Western countries, not Africa. I'm not completely sure how it even relates. Majority of supplies of and so on, like for example, Russian diamond trade is like it's barely, I think, like a 0.5% of GDP. Okay, maybe I'm wrong and so on. You can correct me on that, but it's like super small amounts compared to like what they're getting from selling oil and gas. Like it's like, well, you know, there's like this 2% industry. It's like, is it bad if we're buying diamonds and still paying those 2% to Russia? Yes, but what I'm thinking is that we should be also treating the elephant in the room. For example, we put this $60 price cap on Russian oil. Why not embargo? Why are we still buying oil from Russia? Why we are allowing buying oil from Russia? Why are we talking about this like, oh, you shouldn't buy Russian oil for over $60 a barrel? It's like, why should you buy Russian oil at all? Why? Like the country broke every rule in the book for the how world order should work. Why the fuck are we're still trading with them? Why are we giving our money for them to kill more Ukrainians? Why? That's the kind of the elephant in the room. It's like, oh, by the way, you know, Russia is doing like diamonds. It's like 0.5% of their economy. It's like, yeah. Do you know that 70% of their economy is like oil and gas? It's like, maybe we should deal with that. We have currently 300. I'm working on a shop right now. Currently, we have 384 products ready for launch, getting 400 and looking for the last details. Talk tomorrow. Ooh. Maybe I will have good news for you guys soon. Attackams have a 10-year shelf life. Lots of other mothball equipment has a shelf life. How much are American delays because of the demothball takes time rather than other factors? Yeah. Bullshit. We have plenty. We had plenty of time to supply whatever Ukraine needs. Like, it's all BS. I call absolute BS, garbage. Like, you can, like, I believe in US more. I believe that US and US specifically military machine can both walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Yeah. Sorry, no, I'm not buying the incompetent stuff. Not the incompetence, but like, oh, we just didn't have enough time. Yeah, but eat shit. No, I don't believe it. Can we shame naming companies that secretly support Russia? I mean, yes, I do it all the time. Russia is constantly demanding gay people in Ukraine. What? Russia is constantly I don't know this word. Demeaning. How to read it? Demeaning? Is that a word? Demeaning. Okay, sorry. I knew this word, how it sounds, but I just didn't know how it was written. English problems. Russia is constantly demeaning gay people, and Ukraine never gives them a second thought, it seems. What makes Ukraine so accepting? It is usually easy to throw us gay folks under the bus. I mean, look, Ukraine was always more progressive because Ukraine was very, very diverse. In Russia, they have a lot of weird narratives about Russians being the dominant culture. In Ukraine, it was never that. Mostly because the concept of a Ukrainian nation, of a Ukrainian nationality, is a mixed concept. It's like something. It's not the same, but it's like kind of ish, like I'm an American, where it's not specifically your nationality, it's more of a belonging to a state, sort of. So Ukraine is always have been like a hodgepodge of multiple cultures. Like there are different cities that have a lot of different cultural heritage. There's like Jewish culture, Greek culture. There is like a lot of other, like the Crimean Tatar culture and so on. And there's different confessions. There's like Muslim, Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Catholic. So it's always been like this melting pot of cultures. So generally, Ukrainians are less conservatives, even for example, to the Latvians, where I'm from, because they are ready to do this. And while they had a lot of this post-Soviet heritage with a lot of the gay people being perceived, this comes specifically actually from the Russian culture, is that from the Russian prison culture, where being like a subjugated partner on the male-on-male relationship, it's actually like only mostly applies for male homosexuality inside of Russia. Like female homosexuality is not really frowned upon as much. It's a huge difference. Like lesbians is like even an open kink, like people can talk about it. Like remember there was a tattoo ban, like it wasn't really a problem for Russia. If it would be two guys, it would be a huge issue. And it kind of flowed into a lot of the Ukrainian perceptions as well. However, over time, as Ukraine kind of culturally more and more decoupled from Russia and looked into itself and looked into like their own culture, they opened up to a lot of things. So while the laws were not catching up fast enough, Ukrainian society was a lot more open to the gay people. The problem is that a lot of that population of Ukraine that doesn't live in like bigger cities, they were not as exposed. So for some of them, it's still that old Soviet Russian narrative about, ooh, you are from prison, you're like in the fucking other people in the ass, ooh. Like it's so weird stuff. Like male on male homosexuality in the post-Soviet countries is a very weird and painful topic. It's I really don't get it. I really don't understand what's the deal with people caring about that. All right. Does Ukraine beam broadcast radio like shortwaves, AM, FM? Yes. Into the occupied territories? Yes. It is low tech but ubiquitous and hard to stop. The radio Free Europe back in World War II. Yes, it is still happening. Er det nu på levering af F-16, sorry. F-16. Yeah. The latest news was that Ukraine has commented that it was expecting to receive 60 F-16s, but it was stated that Ukraine really wants to have 200 F-16s, which is a little bit not the same amount. Has EU finally managed to ramp up production of artillery munition, or do they still discuss the waste time? They could be a ton factory since we started. Yeah, so Mobshell, so the biggest kind of argument that was in Europe was driven by France. It was the argument that if we are investing in procurement of weapons into Ukraine, it should be investment in Europe. And with these results, we came into the fact that you cannot supply enough ammunition to Ukraine. And we see France finally kind of taking a couple of steps back, saying, well, we maybe can consider investing into the other favorable countries towards cause. So they are considering making EU investment available to countries that are not directly in EU, but would be willing to open factories to produce more ammunition, procure more ammunition for Ukraine. So yes, there is movements in expanding investments on the EU side as well. While internally the production still is not there, it is still now considered to maybe invest in some of the third-party countries. So yes, EU is taking actions. Redman, USA is buying shit tons of Russian lumber, which is excluded from most sanctions, so much that Russia in Siberia is paying $60,000 for winter firewood. Government cut deliveries of food to elderly. Why? It's a great question to ask your direct representative. Write it to your direct representative. Really, really good question. Do you see Russia having an economy in the next few decades? Depends what you describe as an economy, right? Because economics, one of the major things about economies that people underestimate is just how resilient they are. Economies are essentially based on people. While people are in some kind of economic activities, there will be an economy around it. They're extremely resilient. I know that for a fact because I come from Latvia, which in 2008 lost over 26% of its economy in 2 years. So like every fourth business was closed. It was done, gone out, non-existent. Quarter of Latvian wealth, Latvian money. Why is it always Russian? Latvian money, Latvian economy was just erased, like completely exposed to nothingness, voided. At that moment, it was hard, but we adapted, we moved forward, and continued with our economy. Russia is not even closely in that kind of problems right now. So as a person that experienced that level of economic destruction firsthand, living through it, surviving through it, I can say that there is a lot of economic potential for survival still in Russian economy. With that said, if we understand economy as a healthy economy, as something that will benefit the Russians inside Russia, that will make Russia stronger with their economic soft power in the world, in that sense, Russia is heading only one way and one way only, to complete an utter oblivion. They're going to be rivaling North Korea quite soon if this will continue. Just give it additional like 3-4 years and it will be they can make a competition between the two economies, which one is in a shittier state than the other. That is also an opinion on economy. Third opinion on economy is saying that Russia still has a lot of resilience, that technically speaking, Russia doesn't really need to pander to Russian population at all. And it's all about if Russian economy can produce sufficient wealth to sustain Putin's life and his friend's life and his ruling machine life. And in that sense, we need to turn to the economies of, for example, some of the African military dictatorships. We can see that population can literally be dying out of starvation, out of lack of food or basic necessities, and there will still be enough resources sold to the external markets to feed the machine. So in that sense, is Russia still selling those resources and there is still enough income for payment to this smaller machine of the Putin's both propaganda and Putin's closer circle? And the answer is yes. And that has not been significantly impacted. So in that sense, Russian economy is not going anywhere at all. You can choose whichever economy you want to look at. It's up to you, but it's kind of like that. All right, that was a great stream today, guys. I think I'm gonna be slowly wrapping up. I'm really happy that you were here today. It's been very busy day, very busy week. I'm hoping to get as much as I can. I cannot promise anything, but I will try to do everything. What I do want you to know that I'm not going to stop this. I'm going to continue until the victory. I'm going to continue additional support. There's going to be a new ability for us to get support for Ukrainian armed forces with as little of red tape as we can. We're going to make sure that they do. Slava Ukraini. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.